Hey YouTube, I just want to go over quickly my experience and thought process behind my AR-15. As you can see, it is a bullpup. Just want to let you know I will be reading off of a script here so I can kind of, put my thoughts together and then explain it more cohesively. So what is this? It's an AR-15 inside of a bullpup kit from SRU Precision. I think it started off as like an airsoft kit, but then due to like popular demand, right, they eventually made a kit for the real AR-15s. So it is clear, right? Visual check. Safety's on, right? So gun is clear and safe. This kit, I would say, is probably designed more for bufferless systems. So something like a PSA Jackal, a BRN 180, or a Mike Foxtrot FM15. I didn't want to go with one of those because I kind of wanted AR-15 parts, right? I don't want an AR style rifle bullpup. I want an AR-15 bullpup. So in order to achieve this, I went with a 3.5 inch buffer tube from Pantheon Arms. This makes it so I can have full-size bulk carriers in there. You can see it goes all the way to the back. I also went with a side charging upper. This is from Bear Creek Arsenal. I know they get a bad rep, which is why I replaced their bolt and firing pin with a bolt and firing pin from Gorilla Machining. I went with this setup because a standard rear charger kind of digs in your cheek, and when you're trying to get like a proper cheek weld, like even if you have it all the way up here, you can kind of feel that little T-bone charging handle kind of digging in your neck. I didn't like that, so I just went with the side charger. Problem solved. It is still fully compatible with the rear charger if you wanted to put it on there. As you can see, it has all this like clearance so you can like charge it. I just went with this one because it was a much easier solution than doing something else. I don't know. So I have put maybe 300 to 400 rounds through this so far, and I haven't had any reliability issues with the receiver and buffer tube. But I did want to point out some issues I had, and they weren't with the kit necessarily. First thing is my trigger. I'm using a 3-pound match trigger from Davidson Defense, and the pins were walking out when I was at the range, so I did have a lockup. I'll include some footage at the end, and it's during the mag dump. You'll see that the bolt doesn't go all the way to the back because there was actually a bullet still in the chamber, and it just didn't fire because the trigger got locked up because the pins were coming out. When I got home, I tightened them, right? A little bit of Loctite. That should not be an issue anymore. Another issue I wanted to go over was I have a 10-round PMag, and for some reason, when I would hit the bolt release, it would just get stuck. It was the only mag that I had that issue. So, it is brand new. It's about, I've maybe used it like 3 times, so maybe it's just a problem with that single mag, or maybe it needs like some sort of break-in period, I don't know. But it worked perfectly fine with one of these 60 rounders. This is a ATI S60, I believe, and it also worked with a hex mag. I don't know where they're at. It worked perfectly fine with my hex mags as well, 30 rounds. So I'm assuming it's just an issue with the 10-round PMag. I'm not sure. I do want to go over a couple things I don't like about the kit. First of all, I think it looks cool. There's like 3 or 4 bullpup kits. They have like the SCY, right, or the Psy from Reap Weaponries. They have like that A3 tactical one, which I do think kind of looks cool, but this one I think just looks a little bit cooler, so I went with this one. But one thing I did not like was this end plate. They include this end plate, and I'm assuming it's because you're supposed to use it with their buffer tube, this orange buffer tube. Obviously I'm using a black one, so when you put these on, it just kind of clashes with the entire build. It's supposed to be a black rifle, and then having that little orange end plate was just disgusting to look at. So I went with a black quick disconnect end plate. I had to shave off some aluminum in order to get it to fit in there, but it fits and it works, so I'm happy with that. And then you may also notice that I don't have their little paddle that kind of goes right here. they have a paddle so that when you are, you know, unloading, you can kind of hit that paddle and then the mag releases. I didn't use it because it kept hitting my knuckle when I was jamming mags in there like that. So I am instead using a ambi mag release. I already had this on hand back when it was a full, you know, rifle before I decided to do this. So I was like, hey, I'll just use that instead. That is a Strike Industries mag release for those of you who are interested and want to go ahead and use that instead of their paddle. I just thought that worked better. So this may be something that may be a deal breaker for those who want to build one of these with a match trigger. I think the kit is pretty much designed for mil-spec parts. I think that's pretty much a given. But I'm using a 3-pound match trigger in my receiver. And that causes the front safety to not work because it pretty much has like an instant break, right? Like there's no play before the trigger breaks. So I do want to demonstrate that right here. So that was unsafe. That was unsafe. That's fire. That's safe. Let's try that again. Here's fire. Here's safe. Here's safe. It fires no matter what. And that's because the match trigger just has virtually no play in it. So any movement of here is going to trigger it off. They do have a bit in their PDF installation document that they have on their website to kind of address the issue. It states that you got to put it like a 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter shim or a washer underneath the trigger, and it should fix the problem. But I tried it with 2 different washers, tried to get them in there, and it just either made the trigger not work at all or would just have the same issue. I did get it very close, but if you went like this, like super fast, it would go off. And that alone was enough for me not to want to keep it like that. So, as for my build in particular, I'm using pretty cheap parts, I would say. The barrel is from Gauntlet Arms. It's a match barrel, 16 inches. It had pretty decent groupings. I should have kept my targets. I think they're in the car, but you know, you can trust me, right? Like the groupings were fine. It was a 25-yard range, so what do you expect, right? Like of course you're gonna have good groupings. Maybe next time I'll do a follow-up video at 100-yard range. I don't know. For my handguard, I went with like this generic M-LOK handguard. I found this on Gunbroker, and the reason why I went with one of these that has like the screws that kind of screw into your barrel nut is because the clamp on handguards, they may or may not give enough clearance for the kit. I did have another handguard that has like the clamp on, and it wouldn't see all the way. So you know what? Just went and got this one. You know, you can just tell it's slim. It's gonna fit. There's way more than enough clearance in there. Speaking of handguards, I went with a angled foregrip because they do have like an extended handguard that kind of goes over this to make it a little bit more, I guess, cohesive. That's $50 plus $25 for FedEx shipping. So that's $75 for pretty much aesthetics only. And this is because of their like kit. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of play. It's not a lot. When you're shooting, you don't really notice it. And, you know, it says if you install this correctly, the little pin, you know, it should, you know, pretty much fix that. But obviously it doesn't. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But that play is a big enough reason for me not to get that rail extension because you can't really use it for anything other than like a grip. It's not stable enough for lasers. So if you want a laser, you could just put it on the top rail. That's probably the best solution for that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Would I do this again given the chance? Yeah, I think I would. It's very fun to shoot. It looks like a cool Halo gun. I may get like one of those you know, riser Picatinny rails from either A3 Tactical or I don't know, somewhere else, I don't know, to make it look more Halo-esque. I think that would be pretty cool. I'm using a Strike Industries pistol grip, right? You know, maybe I'll get like a more of a 0-degree angle one for more clearance with the mags, because as you can see, you know, there's not a lot of room right there. So that's something to also consider if you want to put together a brand new thing. I will wrap up the video with some range footage I had. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Racketback Armory and Exandria. Those two channels also have a video on this kit, and they answer some of my questions in the comments. So thank you to them. And thank you for sticking around if you did to the end. So yeah, stay safe and shoot straight. Might make a follow-up. Have a good day, everyone.